Hi, so this is Nirwa, editor of India English, and today we have Kartikeya Tanna.
Hi, Nirva. Thanks for having me here. Should I give a brief introduction of myself?
Yes, please.
I'm an attorney by profession. I used to practice law in India, and now I do immigration law in the United States. And I used to write articles. I still do, on current affairs, especially aspects that have a legal side to it. 2002 riots, fake encounters, etc. And now recently, the Ayodhya judgment, etc. So I do political commentary. I occasionally appear on Republic TV, and I appeared on Al Jazeera as well. So yeah, a bit of everything.
All right. So both of us, I don't think more people would know, but both of us are, we've been from Ahmedabad and
Yes.
Gujarat, and so Narendra Modi will be completing his 20 years in public office soon. Next month. So thought about how. So my first on a personal level, my first biggest when I started following and observing the political scenario and around me was around this time. The earthquake and followed by the Narendra Modi government, and which was then followed by the 2002 riots. So thought of how about trip down the memory lane and generally talk
Yeah.
about how things happened and also so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a trip down memory lane for sure, for a lot of us who were politically involved since that time. But it's also a lesson in history, in a sense that history teaches you how not to repeat certain aspects of history. So in that sense, recollecting this on the occasion of him, I think, completing 20 years in office pretty soon. He was appointed the chief minister sometime in October 2001. So it's going to
Right.
be 20 years. And also his birthday is coming up. So
Right.
it's definitely a good time to talk about how he has risen through this immense journey of his, which has seen hostility and allegations of all kinds, and yet the man has not lost a single election, and not only that, he has won 2014 and 2019 all over India with a
Right.
massive majority. I mean, that's something that's phenomenal.
Yeah, 2019 was even more thumping than the
Yeah,
2014, so uh, quite
yeah,
quite a few.
yeah,
Uh, okay, so just to talk about briefly about the 2002 riots, on 27th February 2002, when a mob set a train on fire and 59 people were killed and burnt alive. Right after that, on around 28th morning, that's when the violence started erupting in certain pockets of the city.
right.
Uh, so a lot of people have accused the state government or the state administration of not doing enough and giving the rioters a free hand
Right.
on it. There have been a lot of allegations and counter allegations. Obviously, a lot of things they have all come out clean. But what about what are your views on the allegations, and how do you think that what are the facts, rather, more than the allegations? What are the
Yeah.
facts on those?
I mean, the facts on the riots are in a 600 or 900 page SIT report, which is
Yeah.
extensive. And, I would recommend everyone to go through it to know each and every minute detail of the 2002 riots and also the falsehood that was spread. But I think I'm glad that you mentioned what happened on the 27th of February, because when Gujarat riots are mentioned, it's always mentioned in isolation. It's always
Right.
mentioned as if oh, suddenly Hindus wanted to kill Muslims all over. I think what people don't mention is what happened in Godhra, and that was a very
Right.
brutal act. It was, according to me, it was a brutal act of domestic terrorism, because these were people who were car sevaks and their wives and children coming back from Ayodhya, doing the puja, and they were, the doors were locked and they were set on fire. And now, unfortunately, at that time, media was it was very recent, 24/7 media. You had news channels that were on 24/7 basis. Before that, we mostly had Doordarshan. It wasn't 24/7. So cable TV was had made its advent, newspapers as well. So obviously for them, this was a very newsworthy episode, and they flashed images of these dead bodies and charred bodies and this burnt bogey. That definitely led to inflammation of passions, within Hindus across Gujarat. And Gujarat has had a history of riots. It's not as if 2002 was when the riots happened for the first time. We have had, your father, my father, they've all told us stories about, how riots used to break out in,
Right.
for the most ridiculous issues, like,
Yeah,
on
Uttarayan,
Uttarayan.
Patang.
Yeah.
Rath
So,
Yatra would coincide with Muharram around
correct.
similar times. So,
Correct. So there was an anger that erupted, and
right,
everyone knew it. Everyone sensed it, and also it's a fact that even then and even now, according to me, even now, police in India is very ill-equipped to deal with a massive mob. And I, before I criticize India, I should also point out that even in the United States, when you have a Black Lives Matter kind of a protest, when looting happens in stores, the police cannot do anything. They are just outnumbered, in that sense. And that's what happened in Gujarat as well. But to say that, the government either wanted it or did not do anything about it is completely untrue, and this is again what the SIT report brings out, but also many other independent people have brought out. I have a list of things that, the government did. Modi immediately ordered a shoot and sight order.
yeah, he
Hundreds of
went to Godhra. Correct.
Exactly. Hundreds of preventive arrests were made because the government knew that there are certain elements in the society which will try to foment trouble. So hundreds of preventive arrests were made, and all of this was not, it's nothing, from my own. I'm not shooting from my hip. This was
Right.
actually reported in mainstream newspapers at that time.
And
Uh,
that was the Hindu, which is obviously
yes,
one of them
Hindu,
was the Hindu.
Hindu, Times of India, Indian Express, all of those. He even called the army, and this is where there's been a lot of falsehood and controversy that he called army only on March 1st, 3 days after the event. What people don't
Yeah.
understand is that February
February
in
has
2002,
right.
only 28 days. And on 27th, the Godhra episode happened. 28th
Yeah.
was when the riot started on the morning. And from 28th itself, it was reported on the Hindu edition on the 28th of February that Modi, frantically calls army. And there's actually an anecdote that has been written in a book, as well as something that Modi said in one of his, podcasts or interviews with Madhu Kishwar, if I'm not wrong. That the army was stationed on the India-Pakistan border because of the parliament attacks that had happened in December 2001, just a few months
Right.
before. So to spare the army that quickly was not very possible. So what Modi suggested is that send the other central forces like CRPF, paramilitary, etc., and just have them don the army uniform and have them parade, because that itself will spread fear in the minds of people not to riot. So if someone really wants to collude, if someone wants to give Hindus a free hand, why would they do things like this? And also army started coming in the late night of 28th of February, the first day itself.
Right.
And on 1st of
Right.
March, we had the army, stationed in as many places as, however number of, army men could be spared. He also did one more thing, many more things, but one thing that must be mentioned is that, Hajj pilgrims were returning from Hajj. So he instructed safe passage, to them returning around that time. Now, who does that?
Right.
Also, there were another controversy had happened about, the bodies of these car sevaks, who were burnt alive in that unfortunate, terror incident. I would call it terrorism.
Absolutely.
Many of them belong to Ahmedabad. Now, can you just leave those bodies over there? No, you have to bring them back to Ahmedabad. But if you bring them back, there's likely to be outrage, and communal passions can get inflamed. So what's the best way in which you do it so that the families are not deprived of at least paying their last rites to the dead? and yet at the same time he maintained law and order. So what he did was, at that time, Sola Civil Hospital, which is on, I think now it is, because Ahmedabad has grown so much. Now it is, it is very much in the, in the main areas of the city. But at that time, it was the complete outskirts.
Right,
so
it was on the outskirts.
It was on the outskirts. So what he instructed the people to do, his team to do, is to bring the dead bodies to the Sola Civil Hospital at 3 a.m. in the night, when most of the riot mongers, are basically asleep. It's dead of the night. Even that. And lastly, and this is a very important thing, that again, not a lot of people know about it, or people who write about him in the context of 2002 riots, they forget about this. Modi had requested 3 neighboring states at that time, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, to send additional police forces, because the Gujarat police was, it was obvious that it was going to be outnumbered. And the same thing has happened in the US, where because of the riots that happened last year, some states did ask for additional help, like the National Guard. Like you must remember Trump's tweets that send the National Guard now. And many states requested it, and there's a reason for it, because you don't hire hundreds and thousands of police officers in the anticipation that something like this would happen every day. You hire it based on a general day-to-day law and order needs. So Modi requested the 3 neighboring states to send additional police forces. And there are letters that I'll share with you. They are in the SIT report. It's not something, again, I'm shooting out from my hip. And I hope that you guys write an article or something, where you can you can paste those letters. So 3 letters to 3 neighboring states. One state replied, "No, sorry, we can't spare anyone." The other state ignored it, and Maharashtra was the only state that sent some forces. They only sent 2 COIs. So again, and all 3 states were ruled by Congress governments.
Congress, it was Ashok Gehlot in Rajasthan, Digvijay Singh in Madhya Pradesh, and
exactly.
Deshmukh in, if I'm not mistaken, in Maharashtra.
Exactly. So, again, if someone really wanted Muslims to be taught a lesson, no less than the Chief Minister of Gujarat, why would he do all of these things? Right. Because it was very easy. See, we look at the riots, or rather everyone looks at the riots as, oh, so many lives were lost. Obviously, in that also, 700 odd Muslims died, but 250 odd Hindus died as well. So these were riots. This was not a genocide. This was not a one-sided warfare. But what people don't look, and it's easier to, ignore this, is how many lives were saved because of timely action. We see, okay, ek number hai, how many lives, were taken away, how many people died, but how many people survived? Because of timely action of the Gujarat government and Modi in particular. Yes, in certain places, I'm pretty sure the police officers probably gave up because they feared for their own lives. When you are facing a murderous mob, you fear for your own life. So again, when people say, when people recollect Modi as, always all articles about him always have this mention, 2002 riots, complicity, and, those words are thrown in. It's all complete bunkum, unfortunately.
Right. But then every time there are reports, whenever they talk about the riots, people mention how Modi informed, he instructed rather the police to have a free hand, give a free hand to the rioters and let them take out their, vent out their anger. And there have been a lot of investigations on it, and certain former disgraced cop also made a lot of allegations when he was not even in the meeting. So what exactly happened? How did this happen when the chief minister is trying so hard? How did this one particular very obscure and also very hurtful thing come out, and which has somehow become the truth?
Right. It's kind of controversial to say this, but I think it's important that we say it.
Yes.
The person who most famously has been attributed to state this is Sanjeev Bhatt. right? Gujarat, a former, I would say, a
Right.
former, dismissed Gujarat police officer, who alleged that yes, even though his name was not recorded in the minutes of the meeting, whatever, he still says yes, he was there in the meeting. He was called by a senior police officer. So he had gone, and yes, he heard Modi say this. But I think if we trace back the steps on how this theory came into being, see, Sanjeev Bhatt said this for the first time in 2011. 9
Right.
years 9 years after the alleged incident. So first of all, what was he doing for 9 years? Was he hoping that he was going to get some kind of a promotion, or that he expected that, yes, he was going to get promoted, but then he didn't, so then he just took revenge? I mean, I don't know. These are all speculations. His
Right.
motives are very questionable, because so many lies of his have been caught. But I don't think he was the first one to float this theory. There was also R.B. Srikumar, another cop, who floated this theory as well. But I think even before that, those who were reading newspapers on a regular basis in 2002, and I was one of them, I clearly remember an article in Outlook. And there's this one brilliant work done by this author, Manmath Deshpande. He has written this brilliant book, Gujarat Riots, and I would definitely recommend the SIT report as well as his book to read everything, to understand, every little detail about the Gujarat riots. So many people have drawn this inference that there was one Gujarat minister at that time in 2002 who first said this to a team of retired judges, officers, etc. That was not even set up by any official agency, government, central government, etc. It was set up by Teesta Setalwad's organization, the Citizens of Justice and Peace. Now, Teesta Setalwad, for those who don't know, is an activist who has constantly rallied against BJP governments. She used to do that against Vajpayee when Vajpayee was the prime minister, and then this happened, and she jumped in for her fame and other things. And a lot of what her organization has done is complete falsehoods. And I don't need to say more. You can just Google about her. But
she's also accused by the riot victims of embezzling money and illegally exhuming the bodies, and
yes,
very grave allegations against her have been put up.
And not just that, she was also accused of tutoring witnesses on what to say.
Right.
So okay, let's prepare the witnesses. Let's make sure that they say something that cannot be denied. So there was this one Gujarat minister, unnamed, I think it was in Outlook, who said that Modi instructed officers to do this. Now again, before we go to who that minister probably is, and my sources with direct knowledge of this particular confession in question have told me unequivocally who it was, but we'll come to that in a bit. This minister was not even present in the meeting. You see, this minister said that, some officer in the meeting told him after the meeting that Modi said this. Now, in legal parlance, this is called hearsay. In evidentiary work, this is called hearsay. So, hearsay in evidentiary law is basically what someone else tells you, and you are trying to portray that as the truth. But you don't have any direct knowledge of the event. So it has to be corroborative. So someone else has to confirm it. And the SIT asked every officer that was present at the meeting. All the officers categorically denied such a thing. Oh, sorry.
What if it's a live? It would have been so much fun. Live होता कितनी मजा आवत.
I was live with a legal, ek chokri che, she runs a legal blog, legal podcast. So we were just, discussing freedom of speech and judgments. So she started coughing really bad. And I thought, oh my God, COVID to nathi. And we were Instagram live. And then then she messaged me that in a upper flat there was a fire, massive fire, and a fire na fumes and smokes basically was creating this cough. So they had to run out of the apartment, and then they called the landlord, and all of that. So it was pretty scary. But on live, I was like, I told her that, oh my God, I hope you don't have COVID. And I told her, okay, at least edit that portion. And she's like, no, it's live. So, this is what gets done as video.
Yeah. Oh, well. Okay, I think now it's done.
Yeah. So all of the SIT officer, all of the officers who were there at this meeting, all of them have categorically denied any such instruction. And let's think about it logically. At that time, anyone could have a cell phone with them or a recorder with them and record everything. Why would, if let's assume Modi wants to do this, right? Let's assume Modi wants. Why would he give such blatant instructions to 8 officers that were present at the meeting? He can always convey that through some emissary, some kind of agent in between. Why would he himself do it to a group of officers? And he has only been a chief minister for 3 or 4 months at that time.
4 months.
Yeah. So again, this is just bereft of logic. I think it was just an attempt or a hope on the part of people who didn't want BJP to rise to somehow prevent his rise, and which is an outstanding feature about him. But it's also something that is worthy of admiration for how his opponents saw him. His opponents in Congress and elsewhere saw that he is a threat to their political ambitions. So let's gun him down right now. But I think coming back to that, Gujarat minister who allegedly said this, I can say this, it was Hareen Pandya, who was the first one who floated this, so-called theory, which then gained, which the seed was planted by him. And it's very unfortunate that it happened that way. I'm assuming, I mean, he's no longer alive, so, we can't even ask him, but I'm assuming that his motive to do that was probably because he was the home minister before Modi came into power. And he expected that, if Keshubhai, the previous chief minister who resigns, he will be the successor. But instead, someone like Narendra Modi, who not a lot of people had at that point of time heard of, he had never contested an election, never been an MLA. He was always a party person, and before that an RSS person. Very very powerful backbone, very powerful organizing strengths, but never fought an election. And then you suddenly parachute him into the chief minister's post. And at that time, BJP didn't have a lot of state governments in their power. Gujarat was one rare state like this, and it's possible that envy could have been what motivated him to say this. And again, this is something I'm saying because I have sources have confirmed to me, sources who have direct knowledge of what happened in the confession or in the statements that he made before the tribunal, which was a fact-finding tribunal by the Teesta Setalwad's organization. And very ironically, Hareen Pandya is there were charges against him. There were multiple eyewitnesses who saw Hareen Pandya inciting a group of rioters in an area called Palari, Ellisbridge area in Ahmedabad, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Many people have seen him provoke rioters into committing these acts at that time. So it's very ironic that the seed behind this was planted by someone who very possibly had a direct role in the riots. And I think he was one of the only prominent leaders at that time who had a role in the riots. So according to me, that is how the theory has gained credence. That is how the seed has been planted. And then obviously opportunistic officers, R.B. Srikumar probably had some axe to grind against Modi, and Teesta Setalwad was very clever in convincing him. and then Sanjeev Bhatt, for whatever reasons best known to him, they all picked up on this, plant that was planted by, unfortunately, in 2002 by Haren Pandya.
And unfortunately, he was assassinated in 2003, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So
Yes.
more details on this were never found because things
Yeah.
went with him pretty within in about a year of riots itself.
Yeah, but those who knew, at that
Right.
time, and very possibly he was assassinated because of his direct complicity in the riots. And again, he was one of those stories abound. And again, this I haven't confirmed this, but anecdotes have been said that he used to walk in a park called Law Garden in that area. He used to do his morning walks without any security whatsoever. He didn't want any security, or he probably thought that any security given to him would be reporting his movements back to the chief minister, who was his rival. So he probably refused it because of that. Again, this is all conjecture. I don't have any direct knowledge of this. So he was just a sitting duck for anyone who wanted to take revenge on him. So it's unfortunate that happened.
Right. So on similar lines, we can say that the Modi government was constantly under scrutiny for the riots. Even now, after 20 years of riots, and he still everyone still questions him about it. Compared to that, other chief ministers of other states where recently post-poll violence took place, no one bats an eye. It's like certain lives are just expendable types. So and everyone has a free hand there. But how about you inform us a little bit about the other kind of scrutinies Modi had to undergo as the chief minister of a state for, I think he was here for about 12 to 13 years as a
13
chief
years,
minister,
yes.
3 terms he won.
Yes.
So all the scrutiny that he had to undergo, he had to be. He was also investigated on corruption charges, and a lot of other allegations were put on by Congress and Rahul Gandhi and so many politicians. And constant the media trial by media happening every single day. So what about some of those things that you maybe
Sure. But it's good that you mentioned, this post-poll violence, and, let's name the state West Bengal. Let's name the chief minister Mamata Banerjee. And we can name that because the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of it. So, this is not a hidden fact anymore. And finally, it took the Supreme Court to do something, to intervene. But it's unfortunate. It's the unfortunate truth of Indian politics that secularism is a defense to any and every crime. Because Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal is seen as this secular messiah, only one who can defeat Modi. And the West Bengal elections were very charged, very fiercely contested. And there were hopes that, BJP would win, but it didn't. Mamata Banerjee swept. So, obviously, full respect to democracy and its results. We can disagree with it, but we can't disrespect it. So she's increasingly being seen as this, challenger to Modi, and she's secular. And when we say secular, OpIndia has done a mighty fine job at defining what that is over these years. So I don't need to even mention it. But so secularism becomes a defense to anything and everything. So there's no scrutiny. Certain judges in Calcutta High Court who wanted to, potentially investigated, or maybe who were an inconvenience to the ruling government. I think it was the acting chief justice, if I remember correctly. She threw a fit that she wanted this acting chief justice out of Kolkata. 2 judges in Supreme Court recused from hearing these cases. See, you can call Modi anything and everything. It's freedom of speech, right? Authoritarian, fascist, this, that. What is this that Mamata Banerjee is doing? And unfortunately, no one with an iota of conscience is speaking about it. In even 1/10 or 1/100th of the intensity that they abuse and malign Modi. So before we go on to the whole fake encounter saga where Amit Shah was in the thick and thin of it, and then the corruption allegations as well. I do want to mention the fact that this so-called fascist and authoritarian Modi, how much of a respect he has for institutions and democracy. The Supreme Court appointed a special investigation team to investigate the riots. Okay. Gujarat police may not have done a neutral job, etc., etc. Fair enough. The SIT, obviously one of the allegations by Zakia Jafri, the wife of Ehsan Jafri, the former Congress MP, who also died in the riots. She had filed a case accusing everyone from Modi to the junior most police officer that they all had a role to play in the riots. So Modi was one of the accused insofar as this FIR was concerned. So the Supreme Court appointed the special investigation team and monitored it as well, monitored its progress. The special investigation team had to obviously at some point of time investigate Modi on, or question him on many allegations against him. And that day, I remember it was in 2012 at some point, or 2011. I might be confused with the dates, but he diligently sat in that grilling for 9 hours. And he answered every question that the SIT asked him without any fanfare. He went alone. He went without an attorney present. He was not evasive at all in any of the questioning. The transcript is there in the SIT report for everyone to see. Which chief minister who has even an iota of guilt would do something like that? Right. I think what Modi's biggest asset that totally obliviates or totally destroys any fear of failure within him is his honesty and his truth. I think that is a remarkable quality that he has, according to me. So he went there and then the SIT chief R.K. Raghavan, he wrote an article. He wrote a book actually, an autobiography in which he said that Modi did not even accept a cup of tea from us. Modi took his own water bottle. And the SIT said, "Okay, sir, chai piyoge?" He's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to satisfy the judicial process that the Honorable Supreme Court of India has put in process." Now we may disagree with it, with Supreme Court's decisions as well, but this is one of the best examples of how he respected the process of law as is set under our Constitution. So again. He could have done even 1/10 of what Mamata Banerjee is doing, honestly. And the media would have pounced on him. But he did that with conviction. He appeared before the SIT. He answered all their questions. So talk about scrutiny. Talk about this intensity. Sitting chief minister is being grilled by the SIT. And he didn't even utter a single sentence of disrespect or even disagreement with this process. I think that's commendable.
Right.
But going to so 2002 riots obviously is something that'll always be over him. That shadow will always hang over him because certain people have made a career out of the 2002 riots. Like I call it a 2002 riot industry, Inc. And the shareholders are all of this Tisa Setalwad. She's probably the chairman and whatever. But then there was 2002 riots. The cases started to it seemed like, okay, we're not going to be able to get Modi on this. So what's the next best thing? The next best thing is Amit Shah. Amit Shah, his very trusted deputy home minister for all these years. And there were certain encounters that happened. Sohrabuddin, Ishrat Jahan, Tulsiram Prajapati, exactly. So Sohrabuddin, I mean, there's this hardened criminal from whose home war-grade weaponry was found. And it seems like in a chase or something he was assassinated. Ishrat Jahan was an LET module. David Headley said that in his confession. I think there was an LET pamphlet, a Lashkar-e-Toiba pamphlet or some newsletter that called her a martyr, when she died or on some anniversary of that. So now it's possible that some of these were fake encounters and under law, fake encounters are not permitted, because there's a whole process, of law that the most hardened accused has to go to. Kasab went through, the whole trial. Yes, there's also a constituency, an electorate constituency, which believes in fake encounter. They would rather have, these criminal elements just die. Regardless, the law is the law. But instead of, trying to go up the chain of investigation, what the CBI at that point of time did was go straight to Amit Shah. Because Amit Shah was the home minister, so for them, getting Amit Shah was the next best thing that they could do in absence of finding anything credible against Narendra Modi. So if you disable Amit Shah in some of the other way, if you trap him in any of this, then Modi becomes weaker, and that they can defeat. And in fact, I remember I have with me a blog written by Arun Jaitley, the late Arun Jaitley. A brilliant mind. He was one of those who was, constantly giving us with the truth. That whatever he could find at his command. He found something in his blog, a notation in a file. CBI's legal department, when they were investigating these fake encounter cases, they told the CBI special officers that, listen, we don't have anything against Amit Shah. We can't really make a case against Amit Shah. So, why don't we focus our efforts somewhere else? To which the special officer puts a note in that file saying that arresting Amit Shah is necessary to get to the eventual target. And obviously the eventual target is Narendra Modi. And I recommend people to read this blog by Arun Jaitley. He has written several blogs on all these cases against Amit Shah. In fact, many newspaper reports suggested that, Arun Jaitley was the legal brain who was, basically fully backing Amit Shah and Narendra Modi at that point of time when they were embroiled in all these, legal issues from a hostile UPA. So imagine something as blatant as misusing the CBI just to settle a score with a political opponent. If you remember, the CBI used to be called the caged parrot.
Right.
Because the CBI could not, or rather was not allowed to investigate high-profile corruption cases which involved either Congress or their secular allies. But this caged parrot was left open to attack Amit Shah, because they realized that they are not going to be in power if these guys keep succeeding. So they did everything possible to make sure that the 2012 elections were not in Modi's favor, or that he was trapped in some or the other legal thing, or that Amit Shah was trapped. And let's contrast that with Anil Deshmukh, the Home Minister of Maharashtra. Based on again, it's a surprise that newspapers and media channels aren't reporting on this, significantly, but it seems like Anil Deshmukh is absconding. I don't know if he has. He had
a lookout notice issued against him because.
Yeah, imagine a lookout notice against a home minister, and no one cares because, hey, secularism is a defense to even absconding, from a crime. And then contrast that with Amit Shah and, how he was treated. See, again, here is where the respect of institutions, I would like to make this point. The Supreme Court, the Gujarat High Court granted Amit Shah bail. Amit Shah was arrested under these encounter cases, and then the High Court granted him bail. But the Supreme Court passed an order saying that, okay, well, because Amit Shah is the Home Minister, because he is powerful, he could potentially influence the course of justice. So he was barred from being in Gujarat for more than a year. I don't know what the exact duration was, but it was definitely more than a year. I think it was around 18 months. He did not once criticize this process of law. I'm sure he disagreed with the decision of the Supreme Court. I mean, this is something that made no sense. But we in India, we have a constitution. We have a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the final decision maker insofar as the law is concerned. Nothing, Modi and Amit Shah did nothing whatsoever in no matter how many controversies that they were faced with to malign the judiciary of India. And I think that speaks volumes, as opposed to so many other examples, where of the rivals of the BJP, where they don't care about disintegrating the reputation of institutions of India if it serves their political purpose. I mean, Amit Shah banished from Gujarat, away from his family, for this long, it would have hurt him. But again, these two people, Modi and Amit Shah, it's said about them that whoever throws stones at them, they take those stones, they build ladders, and they climb up. And and now Amit Shah is the Home Minister of India, and Modi is the Prime Minister of India with an empathic majority. So
was such a meltdown when Amit Shah was made the Home Minister. What a meltdown! What a satisfying day it was.
Sure.
I mean, it may sound like a fangirl moment, but I'm pretty sure he must have felt like, take that, guys. Let me not speak French.
Yeah, and even with Amit Shah, there were these errant police officers who tried to do what Sanjeev Bhatt did against Modi. And again, all of these were backed by Sanjeev Bhatt, for example. Coming back to 2002 riots just for a bit. Sanjeev Bhatt, it was found later, was in constant touch with the top leaders of the Gujarat Congress at that point of time. And there was this famous BlackBerry package rather, that he would ask from the Gujarat Congress leaders. I'm not saying it was a bribe, but one of the elements of the package was a BlackBerry. And this has been reported not just in the SIT report, which is the independent investigation agency by the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court also appointed a senior lawyer, Raju Ramchandran, as the amicus curiae to basically give his own separate opinion on culpability of Modi and others. So basically the Supreme Court wanted to cover this from every possible angle, so that no one can say, SIT, well, they fell in love with Modi and all that. There were like stories that SIT has also fallen in love with Modi. So the Supreme Court wanted to allay any of those fears. So they also appointed this amicus curiae. Even the amicus curiae in his report, the amicus curiae actually concluded saying that, sure, you can at least try to make a case against Modi to investigate it further. So, and then all the anti-Modi people said, "Arey wah, dekho, what did he say? He said in our favor," and all that. But even in that report, he has mentioned how Sanjeev Bhatt used to ask for these packages from Gujarat Congress leaders. And also how he would, try to contact all of these journalists and reporters in newspapers to, create a hawa against Modi. So, it's so unfortunate. But again, since the topic is Modi and, his 20 years, there are many people who say, many of his supporters say that, Modi reveled in this, in being this constant target of the secular industry, of those who are opposed to him. And sure, let's assume that's true. But how stupid were Congress and other rival politicians that they kept attacking him, even though there was no, and if his stock was rising because of that, if people were in his favor because he was wrongly being hounded, I mean, how stupid would the rival politicians be that they kept doing that? They kept doubling down on it.
And funny you would bring it up because it's just like it's a cycle they just don't want to break.
No.
The recent one, for example, the whole Adani-Ambani rhetorics that Rahul Gandhi brings up, the Rafale 2019 Rafale, nothing worked. Even despite that, this fellow is bringing up the same Adani-Ambani, as if profit is a dirty word, or rather capital. And this I remember even from years back. Even when as a chief minister, he was always accused of being pro businessman, as if encouraging business activities is the wrong thing.
Modi comes from Gujarat. Gujarat's backbone is business. You and I know it. dhando chhe bhai. If I say in Gujarati.
But see, it's like Gujarat has it is not surviving because of the natural resources and all. It is surviving despite not having so much of abundance.
Exactly. The entrepreneurial spirit of Gujaratis. And Gujaratis who migrated to Africa as well, in London and even in America, they're all very sharp businessmen, and they've made it big because business is in the blood of most of them. So as Chief Minister of Gujarat, Modi understood that very well. But also, it's not just because Gujarati electorate were pro-business that he had to be business. He in a recent Independence Day speech, I think it was 2019, the one after he won the second general election, when he became the Prime Minister again. In the Independence Day speech, he clearly mentioned something that was very refreshing. He fully backed wealth creation and wealth creators. He said that, if we have to do social programs, if we have to distribute wealth around, we need to create it. And how do you create it? Government shouldn't be in this, business of creating wealth. I mean, yes, the government is a lot more in the business of creating wealth than I would personally like, but that's a separate topic. I understand, it's a socialism era, we have to slowly dismantle it. But if you don't encourage independent wealth creators in India, how do you generate that money to distribute among the poor?
Right.
How do you think today, under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, houses are being built? Where do you think that money comes from? Sure, you can. I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to try to even, claim that my opinion is the final opinion. But just from a common sense point of view, how else can you get money? Okay, you can print notes, and then. But what printing notes creates, and any third grader can tell you this, it creates inflation.
Right.
Because the 100 rupee note that you have today, and let's say it buys you a pizza and a Coke, if government keeps printing money and money keeps circulating, without any wealth creation in that sense, but just from the printing press, then after 10 years, with that 100 rupees, you won't be able to buy a pizza and a Coke. You'll only be able to buy a Coke because everyone will have that money, and money will be in abundance. So obviously the prices will rise. So inflation will happen because of that. And any person who cares about the fiscal health of the country realizes that we can't do that. Now, what else is the option of these people, Rahul Gandhi and others, that, let's tax the rich more. One of his advisors during the 2019 elections, I think when they advertised this, 6,000 rupees per month yojana.
Yeah. Free money.
I don't know what the name of that was, but anyways, whatever it was, Nyay scheme.
Nyay.
So, and one of his advisors at that point of time said that, we have to tax the rich. Where will the money for this come from? We have to tax the rich. Now, there's a problem here. And the problem is, okay, if you don't want to print notes because it causes inflation, how else do you spread wealth? How else do you, stimulate the economy? Which essentially is transfer of money from the rich to the society at large. You can either tax them, but these people are brilliant. I mean, you have done CA, I have part CA, I have done part CA. There are brilliant minds who can arrange the money of these rich people in such ways that they will get away without paying taxes and be completely legal.
Right.
So how else do you incentivize rich people from deploying capital to stimulate the economy, to stimulate businesses? You incentivize them to open businesses. So if you realize that there's competition between states and they would rather go to Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh, then Gujarat has to think that, wait, what is it? Why is it that they're not coming here? What are the problems in Gujarat? Maybe we're giving land at market value and exorbitant rates, and not at special industrial rates. And that was one of the allegations that Rahul Gandhi used to levy against Modi. Yeah, the Toffee Model. That ek toffee ke bhav mein, the price of a toffee was what the price of the land per acre or per hectare was given to all these industrialists. But what he does not understand is that when a big business is created, it's not just the direct jobs that are created from it. That's obviously also a benefit, but think about it this way. Let's say Bollywood, right? If it wants to open a film city in somewhere in Gujarat, in a remote area in Gujarat, all the actors will come, etc. But then that will also give an incentive to other businesses around. So, for example, a hotel will open up, resorts will open up.
Right.
Acha, for the not for the actors, probably they don't go to the local chai wala, but for the the staff, for the makeup man, etc. Like a chai wala will open up. Something as small as a chai
Right.
wala, a pakoda wala. And you see how this one incentive to one big business group can result in stimulation of so many so many aspects of the economy. And this is what something like Rahul Gandhi and others don't understand. That, and even Mamata Banerjee, why did Tata Nano flee West Bengal?
Right.
And as the story goes, I think Ratan Tata had said about this that it took one SMS for me to decide to open Tata Nano in Gujarat. I think Modi had
There's
sent
an
an
anecdote.
SMS.
Ki come welcome Gujarat, Sanand,
Ke-
from Singhu to Sanand.
Or that Gujarat is open for you, or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Right.
But see,
right.
again in that, Rahul Gandhi had raised allegations that ye 6,000 crore ya 10,000 crore ka loan diya hai. And another error that these people did was they filed PILs in the High Court against many of these land allotments, many of these incentives that were given to industry. That was the biggest mistake that they did. If they had kept it political, maybe it might have resonated amongst people. But what happened when they filed PILs, or their proxies filed PILs, was that the Gujarat High Court said, what rubbish is this? Incentivizing industry is a policy of the government. It's an executive decision. And there are, economic activities stimulated because of that. And I had written an article on the Gujarat High Court's decision on the Tata Nano allegations that 10,000 crore ka loan diya and all that, and a humble brag moment. But Mr. Modi tweeted my article because and not because not because of me or anything, but because this issue really affected him, because I guess he was realizing that these people are ruining the entrepreneurial spirit of this country.
Right.
See, we can, for our needs, we can import goods from abroad all the time. Like even with COVID vaccines, we could have imported Pfizer and other vaccines. But what Modi wants to do is he wants to give an impetus to Indian industries, to Indian groups to come up with this, and see how beautiful the vaccination drive is. If we would have relied on Pfizer and others, who knows, we might have gotten deliveries after a while. We would have had to wait. But instead, he understands the value of, wealth creation. So unfortunately, his opponents don't. But it's a good hammering point that, but Modi is also very clever, you see, and that's why he's such a successful politician. He gives a complete backing to wealth creation and wealth creators, because he realizes that's how money is generated. And then, the GST historic decision, the revenue from that is then used to provide basic needs to the poorest of the poor. See, Modi is this amazing combination of, incentive to industry, but also complete honesty. So so the money is not leaked. You don't see that Rajiv Gandhi had famously said that, when we send 1 rupee, only 15 paisa are in the hands of. See, but this is exactly what happened during the UPA time, with all these corruption scandals, 2G, Colgate, etc. That has stopped. So what that has done is that has left a lot of money in the kitty of the government to actually do things that empower and uplift the poor people. So today, if Rahul Gandhi goes to the poor people and says, "Ye dekho Adani-Ambani ki sarkar," they will not buy that, sorry to say, BS at all.
I would like to point out one thing here, and
Sure.
in fact, I would like you to talk about it. So the Toffee model that what we talked about, Rahul Gandhi talked about. It was about I think Adani's plant port somewhere, The
Yes.
land was given by Modi government at 50
I
paisa.
know what you're getting at. No, at 1 rupee. 1 rupee
Yeah.
per acre or something.
Per
yeah.
acre.
So yes,
please,
I know what you're getting at. So again, this comes from personal knowledge. I examined the documents at that time, and yes, it is true. Adani was given land after Modi came to power at 1 rupee per acre, and then it increased 1.20, 1.50, etc. Obviously, first of all, it's important to realize that just because land was allotted doesn't mean that this land belongs to Adani. Adani is not the owner of the real estate on which he set up his businesses. It is still Gujarat government's ownership, but it is allotted to Adani under certain conditions that you're going to create industry, you're going to create jobs, etc., etc., etc. There's like a series of conditions.
Operate, transfer. So boot.
Yes, and there are a series of conditions, and because I had the privilege of reading these documents on conditions on which the land was allotted, I thought that why would anyone want to do business with so many conditions? This is not giveaway of land. This is like telling them, okay, we're giving you land, but you have to do 50 things. Anyways, but then I went back into the allotment history, and I realized that in 97. Someone had allotted Adani land at 85 paisa, 15 paisa less than what Modi had allotted in 2002, 2003. And then I found out who was it. And it was Shankar C. Waghela. He was the chief minister of Gujarat. No. He
was a great politician. In fact, one
amazing.
of the better buddies, friends, and rivals with Modi. I think.
I think they share an amazing history, and I really wish that personal ambition and greed hadn't come in the way. Yeah. Otherwise, Waghela being in BJP would have, definitely been a very good thing. But anyways, that's just how it happened. Okay. So Waghela was the chief minister, and he was not even a BJP member at that time.
He was GP, his own party,
RJD, Rashtriya Janata Dal. But then by the time the Gandhi family, RJD, Rashtriya Janata Dal. So by the time Congress started making all these allegations, Shankar C. Waghela was already in Congress. So obviously the obvious question was, hey, okay, if you accuse Modi of giving land to Adani at 1 rupee, why did your own person, fine, he was not in your party at that point of time, but now he is. Can you ask him? He's your neighbor. Why did he give land at 85 paisa? So, one thing that Shashi Tharoor said, something very recently, a couple of days ago, was very, very interesting, and I welcome that. It's very refreshing for him to say this. He said that if you want to debate Savarkar, if you want to disagree with Savarkar, you have to read Savarkar. You have to understand him. You have to read someone who's researched about him, someone who's written his biography, because otherwise what do you disagree with? You just disagree with your assumption about what he said and what he stood for. So understand before disagreeing. The irony is, and the sadness is, that he hasn't explained this to his own boss in the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi utters anything and everything without understanding, and to the extent that Arun Jaitley, we all know, what a gentleman he was. I mean, very restrained and very dignified. Even he, once in Parliament, I remember on the Rafale deal, he had to say, "Ke inko ABC se samjhana padega." And that's when I was like, how angry would such a restrained person have to be at something like this, that even he had to make such a remark. So I think it's just unfortunate, and good for Modi that he has led India in it's such a contrast. Like he leads India with clarity, with certitude, and with this complete lack of fear of failure. And then on the other hand, you have this complete contrast, who just rabbles without understanding anything.
Reminds me of that one time when Modi ji said that that मैं 30 मिनट से बोल रहा था इनको अभी करंट पहुंचा. That is such
Oh,
a
that is,
Gujarati thing to say. That is like tubelight is such a Gujarati term for
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
So
anyways, so no, remarkable story of this man who, faced all odds. I mean, hats off to him. No matter whether you disagree with him or not, and yeah, sure, I disagree with certain of his, steps and policies, but at least understand before disagree. But regardless, I mean, even his fiercest critic has to admit that this man has guts of an unparalleled nature, and he just has that courage of conviction. He understands and absorbs any issue, and then once he makes up his mind, I mean, he goes ahead with it. And complete honesty, complete service to India. I mean, that you can see it in how he, how he governs. For him, like India's interests are, paramount. And yes, helped by a super weak opposition. But hats off to his journey, remarkable 20-year journey, and I hope this 20 more years, one would definitely hope that. But regardless, how many more years remain, these 20 years have really given India a leader. Well, it gave Gujarat a leader for 13 years, whose shoes have been very difficult to fill, and we know how. After he has gone, it's just like he has just left such a tall standard.
Huge void, and huge
not just
void
huge void,
remains.
but just a tall standard. Like
Yeah.
I mean, the next chief ministers, I sympathize with them that they have to fill his shoes, and quite possibly would be the case as and when he decides to give up public life as a prime minister. So, but again, he has faced all odds with this courage, and also, like, yes, he has definitely been an astute politician. He has benefited from this constant hammering, this constant allegations and abuse of all kinds, and he's just converted that into getting the people to rally for him. And I think that's the sign. I mean, some people might call it cynical, whatever. I mean, but that's a politician's job. I think as a politician, that is a remarkable quality, to get people on your side, even though there are, like so many others just hammering at you day in and day out. So quite a fascinating journey.
Right. Here's to many more.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for taking time out and speaking to us. And
thank you for having me.
And yeah, let's talk again soon on some other topic.
For sure.
Gujarat elections are coming up next year, so we have more to talk about.
Yes, and you guys at OpIndia are doing a fabulous job. I read what happened with Nupur.
Yes.
It's still, regardless of all of that, the courage that you guys are showing, continuing to show, is admirable. So I really, really wish you all the strength to continue in this, good fight, to fight this good fight.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.